Opening day is 3 days away, and today we're going to give you an update on what's going on with the St. Louis Cardinals on this episode of the Believe in St. Louis Cardinals. Long live St. Louis Cardinals on YouTube, or Long Live Baseball, the YouTube channel, where you can find this video version. Maybe you're watching right now. Who knows? So there are a few things we need to get to. It's been a while since we've done an episode, and there's going to be more frequent episodes now that the season's about to start. Ollie Marmol, and some people, I've talked to about this. They're not happy about Ollie Marmol getting extended. I'm just going to touch on this real briefly before we get into some more spring stuff. And he was extended through the 2027 season, or the 2028 season rather, with a club option for 2029. His record since taking over as the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals is about 500. It's 325 and 323. And you could argue, I really don't understand. I don't know if it was the playoff blunder, leaving Ryan Helsley in too long. I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it's because of his age. He's a relatively young guy. He's only 39 years old. I don't know what Ollie Marmol has done to make people mad. I think he's been kind of the scapegoat for the St. Louis Cardinals' failures, for lack of a better way of saying that, when the real culprit, in my opinion, was John Mozeliak, who let the minor league system deteriorate over time. That, I think, is the greatest tragedy, and it's the primary reason why we're sitting here staring down a rebuild in 2026, entering the 2026 season, although there are reasons to be excited, and we'll get into some of those in this episode. But this, to me, does not really move the needle. I think it's kind of a no-brainer move. I mean, you're not going to be competitive likely in 2026, probably not in 2027. So that puts him in at 2028 with a real chance potentially to win some ball games and potentially win the division, get back to the playoffs. And then you reevaluate at that point and in 2028, and then you have the club option for 2029. You could do this all over again in a couple of years. You could say, okay, Ollie, we gave you another chance. It wasn't good enough. We can move on at this point. I think it's a smart move. And I think Ollie Marmol, for the most part, has proven to get better on the job. He's proven to be a better manager over time. I think what he did last year was very impressive, and I think it's earned him this opportunity to manage through the 2028 season. I think he, for lack of a better way, earned it. And if you think on the flip side, who would you have gotten to come to the St. Louis Cardinals? Again, it might sound like an asinine statement, but the St. Louis Cardinals are likely not going to be a good team this year. Yes, is there prestige in being the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals? Yes. Have there been a limited number of people to be the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals? Yes. Would it have been a sought after job? Probably for some. But at this point in time, whoever takes over as manager, whether that be Ollie Marmol staying at the job, which that's going to happen, or somebody else, it's good. You're put in a very tough spot here. And we'll see what happens in the 2026 season. I think that they're going to be a little bit better than people think. I don't think that they're going to shock the world and make the playoffs or anything, but I think that this is another smart move by Chaim Bloom to do this, to get your manager that's been there, that knows the players, that they're comfortable with, and then you get a reevaluate here in a couple years. So again, I think Ollie Marmol takes a lot of heat for things that aren't necessarily his fault. So I just thought we'd start there real briefly. And to get on to some other news, Lars Nootbaar, according to an article on Yahoo, according to a tweet from STL Sports Central, he's going to start the season on the IL. Well, this is per Derek Gould too. I just it's Lars Nootbaar's 28 years old now, and unfortunately, and you never want to say never, but and and we're probably going to talk about this with other Cardinals players. We're going to talk about Jordan Walker here in a bit, Nolan Gorman. Obviously, this is a huge year for these guys, and it was going to be a huge year for Lars Nootbaar. Still is a huge year for Lars Nootbaar, but at some point in time, Lars Nootbaar needs to stay on the field for an extended period of time and prove that he can be a future dependable outfielder in the major leagues. In Lars Nootbaar's career, he has not played over 135 games in his career. He's not stayed healthy. But basically what I'm saying is last year was in 2025 was the year he played the most. And he still, I guess you could maybe qualify that as a full season. 509 at bats. I would say something more like 600 is more of like a full-time player. Lars Nootbaar has never hit over 15 home runs in a single season. He's never driven in more than 50 RBIs in a single season. He's never hit over 261. That's his best average in 2023, and that was in 117 games, 426 at bats. I don't know. I think at this point in time, I know we're having a lot of these conversations about Jordan Walker. Is Jordan Walker ever going to figure it out? I think we need to have these conversations with these other players. And if a player like Nelson Velasquez, for example, can prove that maybe in the short term he's the better answer. At this point in time, Lars Nootbaar, we talked about, he's 28 years old. Does he have still a ton of potential? Yes, but at some point in time, you have to turn that potential into actual on-field performance. And at times, it's been great. I think defensively, he's really good, has a really good arm in the outfield. I'm sure if I pulled up Baseball Savant, there'd be some impressive things on Baseball Savant. But overall, it's been very disappointing. Lars Nootbaar, he's been with the Cardinals since 2021. 58 games played, over 100 at bats that season, and I just remember people talking about the StatCast numbers and yada yada yada, exit velocity. But at some point in time, and I think that this is what this year is all about. At some point in time, those players they can't have potential anymore if they're almost 30 years old. And Lars Nootbaar is 28 years old. And I think this was some of the problem with John Mozeliak is the dependency on players who just either health-wise or in Jordan Walker's case, and we'll get to Jordan Walker here in a bit, just haven't produced on the field in the way that you think. Lars Nootbaar's 28. Jordan Walker's only 23. So, in my opinion, there's still time for Jordan Walker to figure it out. And it's not like the Cardinals have done him a lot of favors in his career, sending him up and down and potentially elevating him too soon. And, this spring, he did hit a home run, I think, yesterday in spring training, or maybe it was the day before. So, but he's only hitting 205, and we'll just transition to Jordan Walker right now because a lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of chatter about Jordan Walker, and it's a similar conversation that we just had with Lars Nootbaar. Unfortunately, you want good things to happen. There's just a ton of potential, but Jordan Walker has not lived up to the hype. There's no other way of saying it. And this spring, he's just barely hitting over 200. Which is not good. I think he's still projected to be in the starting lineup. I don't know why you wouldn't put him in the starting lineup for most of the season unless he's just dreadful. But Jordan Walker, again, he's still just 23 years old. I think you saw him take some gains defensively last year. And when you go to the Baseball Savant page, it is hilariously like, what is going on here? Because expected on base percentage is like in the 5th percentile. expected batting average, second percentile, expected slugging, 16th percentile. And then you look at average exit velocity, barrel rate, and hard hit rate, 91st percentile, 66th percentile, 87th percentile. Bat speed, 99th percentile. Arm strength, 96th percentile. It's just everything else. Whiff rate, first percentile. K rate, over like a 31.8% K rate. Walk rate, 38th percentile. Chase rate, 15th percentile. It's just whatever is there talent-wise, because I don't think anybody would deny the talent. It's just not coming together. And there's time. I mean, there's still time for Jordan Walker. I'm sure there would be a number of teams lining up if the Cardinals decided they wanted to trade him. I'm sure a lot of teams would take on that reclamation project. Maybe that's what he needs at this point. Who knows? But I do know this. It would be a mistake not to give him opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, because the potential is there. And he's still just 23 years old. I think we forget that. JJ Weatherholt, who is somebody that a lot of people are excited, me included. Like, JJ Weatherholt is around the same age as Jordan Walker, because he went to college. I mean, he's 23 years old. JJ Weatherholt, born September 10th, 2002. Jordan Walker, born May 22nd, 2002. So there you go. Jordan Walker just months older than JJ Weatherholt. And, it's not crazy to think that these could be the two impact stars in the Cardinals lineup. One is on the upward trajectory. The other is not, obviously. And maybe there's, maybe it's not realistic for me to say these things, but I don't know why the Cardinals wouldn't give him every single opportunity this year, in a year where it's like, okay, we really have to figure out who our next, who we want to put in positions for the upcoming seasons, right? Yes, you want to win every day. Yes, you want to get to the playoffs, but likely that's not going to happen. And if the Cardinals are in a position to make the playoffs, obviously they're going to play the best players that they can. So it's going to be fascinating to see how Jordan Walker, because I feel like most episodes I've done throughout the last couple years on this show, on this channel, Jordan Walker has been a major topic of conversation, and for good reason, because Jordan Walker, for lack of a better way of saying it, has not lived up to the hype. I know that's a tired old cliche, but again, comparing him to Lars Nootbaar is 28 years old, Jordan Walker is 23. I think if there were a case to be made to, trade away one of those players, I think Lars Nootbaar would be that guy. Now, let's move on to the starting rotation, because it is set. We don't necessarily know what the final roster is going to be, although we have a decent idea. The final rotation, starting pitching rotation for the St. Louis Cardinals is set. According to Derek Gould, rotation to open the year, Matthew Liberatore is going to be the opening day starter. Then there's going to be an off day. Michael McGreevy is going to then be the number 2 starter, followed by Dustin May, Kyle Leahy, then Andre Palante. And that is the plan, not a 6-man rotation. Richard Fitz is not going to be in the starting rotation to start the year, despite his pretty good spring. So I do think that even though Richard Fitz is not with the rotation right now, I do think there's a really good chance that he will be by year's end, because we know things happen, injuries pop up. We hope everybody stays healthy, but it's really going to be interesting to see. And again, the Cardinals have taken the approach, in my opinion, finally putting Michael McGreevy in a prominent position in the rotation, seeing what you have in him. Kyle Leahy, same story. And then Andre Palante, giving him another chance to be an everyday starter, although that's the guy that I could see Richard Fitz replacing if he's as bad as he was last year. So we'll see. Liberatore, very exciting. And you look at the starting pitching depth that the St. Louis Cardinals have, and in my opinion, just based on the names that the Cardinals can throw out there, I mean, Richard Fitz being in the, starting in the minor leagues, I think is just proof that they have more depth than they had last year. So I think it's encouraging what the Cardinals put out there in terms of like, you know, what they could put out there. Like Richard Fitz, guys like Cooper Herpy, Gordon Graceffo, more of a bullpen guy. Tink Hence, we've talked about him for a long time. Takova Roby, but there are just guys that I think could be available to see what they have to offer the St. Louis Cardinals. Hunter Dobbins is another name that they got in a trade. He's going to start with the big club, I think, although there's no designation next to his name that says minor. So we'll see. Again, the final roster, as far as I'm seeing, is not set yet. They don't have to do that until I think the day before opening day. Like they don't have to do it until like literally right up to the start of the season. But again, the Cardinals have more depth at the starting pitching, which is great. You need multiple arms, and there was talk in years past, oh, we have 8 starting pitchers. Well, I mean, I would say the quality of those starting pitchers was similar to what we have this year, although we actually, it seems like, do have depth at the starting pitching spot. And I think it's very encouraging, like some of these arms. I'm excited to see what Kyle Leahy can do. We'll see. I mean, let's see if he can be. I mean, the name of the game is opportunity, and these guys are going to have an opportunity. I mean, Dustin May is going to have an opportunity to prove that maybe the Cardinals decide to extend him. I don't know. He's on a 1-year deal. There's options there. There's flexibility, which is exactly what you want in a rebuild. And let's have some fun to close out the show. Let's talk the projected starting lineup, or let's try to guess what the starting lineup is going to be. And I'm not just going to try to predict it. I'm going to go off of an article that was put out there on Sports Illustrated. And so the projected starting lineup that they have, and this was written on March 20th, JJ Weatherholt leading off, playing second base. I think that would be exciting for a multitude of reasons. But JJ Weatherholt, big part of the future. Let's not just I implore Cardinals fans to not just put a ton of expectations on him right away. It's probably likely that he's going to struggle, and that's okay. But for him, being in your rookie season, being the leadoff hitter for the St. Louis Cardinals, playing second base every day, right alongside Mason Wynn at shortstop, who Mason Wynn they have hitting second, and I don't know if I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. I might put Alec Burleson in that spot. I might put Ivan Herrera in that spot. Definitely not going to throw like Nolan Gorman or Jordan Walker in the number 2 hole. But probably I would move up Burleson or Herrera. Then you have Burleson. He projects to hit third. Ivan Herrera, clean up. Nolan Gorman at third base. Nelson Velasquez gets the opening day start in lieu of Lars Nootbaar in left field. He's had a really good spring. Jordan Walker, Pedro Pajes, and Victor Scott. And, I think that this is a good prediction. I think it's very possible. I think you're going to see Ivan Herrera being the designated hitter, Nolan Gorman being the primary everyday third baseman, giving him an opportunity. That's another guy that, has had many chances to prove that he can be a consistent contributor at the major league level, but just hasn't figured it out yet. But again, Nolan Gorman is not 28 years old. He's 25. And he just turned 25 or he's going to turn 26 in May. So that's another guy who could prove that, hey, if you want to be a part of the long-term plans for the St. Louis Cardinals, here you go. You have an opportunity to prove that. And unlike, Lars Nootbaar, he's displayed some real power at times. 2023, 27 home runs in 119 games. So that kind of power is there. Now we just need to see it on a more consistent basis. And again, you could definitely make the sunk cost fallacy argument for any of these players. I'm not saying you can't, but this is the position the Cardinals are in. They're not going to seek out a replacement for these guys this year. Maybe next year, we'll see. Maybe as early as next year, they say, okay, let's promote somebody from within, or let's go get a free agent, or whatever the case might be. Who knows? But I do think that this is a good prediction because I think that in this starting lineup, and you could throw Lars Nootbaar in here when he gets healthy, this starting lineup is probably what the Cardinals need to be putting out there just about every day, because these are the guys that you want to see at bats from. These are the guys that you want to get reps. You know, we want to see Victor Scott in center field every day. We want to see if he can become a more consistent hitter to go with his defense and speed, right? And putting him in the 9-hole feels like a really good spot for him. Again, Mason Wynn, maybe hit him second. Maybe he develops into more of a hitter. We'll see. But overall, that's probably the one spot I would say. Mason Wynn hitting second. I don't know if I love that. I would prefer to bump up Burley and Ivan Herrera potentially into that spot and maybe move Mason Wynn down. But who knows? Maybe he can figure out things offensively. Let me know what you think in the comments on the YouTube. Leave a 5-star review. That helps us out a lot. Let me know what you think of this content as we go through the season here. Opening day is on Thursday. Today is Monday as we're recording this. Hopefully this will be out Monday. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. See you later.